episode 50 of the Hard Truth About B2B e-commerce. I'm your co-host, Isaiah Bollinger, and I'm here with Tim on our exciting 50th, we will call it our 50th anniversary, or I don't know what you want to call it.
Happy golden anniversary to you, Isaiah. It's been 50 amazing episodes, and well, I'm really excited. I mean, I was just saying before we started recording that I spoke with someone who claims to have listened to the other 49, so that's incredible. So thank you to all of our listeners. I really appreciate it. We both do. We're having a great time here on the Hard Truth About B2B e-commerce. And I want to give two quick mentions to our sponsors. One is Punch Out To Go. They are our original longtime sponsor, a global B2B integration company specializing in connecting commerce business platforms with e-procurement and ERP applications. Punch Out To Go's iPaaS technology seamlessly links business applications to automate the flow of purchasing data. And with their solution, you can immediately reduce integration complexities for punch-out catalogs, electronic purchase orders, invoices, and other B2B sales order automation documents, accelerate your business results. And I want to give a shout out also to our more recent, but also excellent sponsor, Balance. Balance is a B2B e-commerce payment solution that works well for you and for your buyers. It offers a seamless one-click checkout for almost any payment method, including ACH, wire, checks, cards, even terms. And it's used by leaders in B2B e-commerce, and it's as easy as buying a shirt from Amazon. Check them out at getbalance.com. Book a session, tell them what your needs are. They are the first dedicated payment platform for B2B e-commerce, and they're 100% tailored to your needs. Thank you to our sponsors. So Isaiah, let's hear about our wonderful guest today. I can't wait to be introduced.
Before I say that, another quick announcement. They just raised 25 million in a Series B. So I think you'll be seeing them quite a bit more.
Balance, we would like another $12 million for your our sponsorship.
Marketing
send
budget.
The check right now.
I think we're a very small line item on their expense sheet right now.
Congratulations to them. That is amazing.
Yeah,
I heard the
yeah,
same.
it is. It's awesome to see B2B getting the attention it deserves. And speaking of B2B, we have a really exciting guest with us today. Hopefully I don't butcher your name. Is Sam Bayer or Bayer?
Well, it depends on the country that you're in, but in the United States of America, it's Bayer.
Okay, so we're here with Sam Bayer, who started an amazing company called Corevist, which is a B2B e-commerce platform that focuses exclusively, which we just determined today, exclusively on SAP. So tell us a little bit about how did you even figure that out and get into that?
Yeah, all right, sure. Well, first of all, congratulations on your 50th episode. I'm happy to be your 50th guest, and for the numerologists that are out there, I was 50 years old when I started this company.
Wow.
Good job.
14 years ago, right? So
wow.
That's how old I am.
Is that the lesson? You know, it's never too late, right?
Never too late.
Never too late.
Never too late. So, you know, the short version of it was back in the late 90s in the early ages of .com era. I was working for a web development tool company, right? Because everybody saw that the web was going to be here. We needed database-driven applications. Everything wasn't going to be just HTML.
Yeah.
You needed app servers. You needed IDEs to develop. You know, so we were that here in Research Triangle Park.
Mm-hmm.
And there happened to have been right around that time an ERP company by the name of SAP that said, yeah, we believe the internet's going to be here. We want to build a demo app for the world. They downloaded our app server and IDE, and they built a demo app for web enabling the employee self-service module back in the late 1990s.
Pretty cool.
Very cool. I started sending consultants out there to train SAP R&D folks on how to build web apps. We didn't know how to spell SAP in those days. And then all of a sudden, they productized it. And now major manufacturers were getting, and this was right before the year 2000. So SAP was on their heyday because You got to get off legacy systems to get on ERP. And people that were getting the employee self-service got our web development tool set. And then Deloitte and Anderson and the big integrators who were doing the SAP integration saw this web development tool and said, huh, could we use this for distributors, for manufacturers? You know, can actually a manufacturer's distributor get on the web and do self-service? And they started building custom apps that were integrated in real time to SAP, because SAP had all the data about customers and pricing and distribution and all that sort of stuff. And then Kohler, Armstrong Tiles, Dow, all of a sudden, within 3 or 60 manufacturers on SAP were running our software. We built, in the meantime, we built an app. And then that company got bought, you know, when the .com bombed, and I took a little vacation for a couple of years. And then in 2007, some of the people that I hired back then said, hey man, the world still needs B2B e-commerce. In fact, it's getting better. And SAP still has clients that can't afford the multi-year, really expensive, complicated solutions. Why don't we build an app? And I said, yeah, the cloud's here. Let's do it on the cloud. And we incorporated
early cloud. So it was
early cloud, 2008.
Was AWS was like just starting, or
I couldn't spell that either. Like, that didn't exist. So, you know,
I don't even want to tell you how old I was back then.
Yeah, I don't even want to. Yeah,
You still had a lollipop and was
I'm
wearing
not
these
gonna
little
ask.
shorts.
I'm not going to ask. But 2008, we incorporated. In 2009, our first client went into production with our cloud-based, real-time integrated to SAP B2B e-commerce portal. And you know, this year we're processing roughly $2 billion worth of revenue.
Wow.
Across the world, 100% on SAP ERP, in God only knows how many countries: Germany, the UK, Poland, Russia. I mean, it's just like, because we follow the SAP footprint.
Yeah.
Right. And SAP runs 80% of the world's transactions, financial transactions, touch an SAP system.
Wow.
So it's a big footprint out there, and that's what we focus on.
So for like layman's terms, would you guys kind of describe it as, for people that are maybe less technical, you're kind of like a cloud, you know, front end layer so that people can log in and buy things through e-commerce, and then you're tying back into the SAP backend ERP system?
Well, that's one way of looking at it. Our way of looking at it is that SAP is actually the commerce system.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? Because people are phoning, faxing, emailing, EDIing orders into the ERP system.
Yeah.
Maybe using customer service reps. So all of the info is in SAP.
Yep.
They got to get it out. And what we do is we just do that in real time. So we are a front end.
Yeah.
Sure. To the SAP ERP system. And so exactly that's what they do, is but I contrast that to people who buy e-commerce platforms, and you guys know the brand names better than I do, right?
Yeah.
And then they say, let's figure out how to integrate this with the ERP system.
Yeah, that's a big project.
And that is a huge project. And at Corevist, we are integrated with SAP on day one of our project.
Yeah, it's built in. You're already
on day one. We start our projects pre-integrated.
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, that makes total sense, and that's a huge advantage. I guess, and I'm sure you get this a lot, and I think I kind of know maybe some of the reasoning, but honestly, I'm very curious to understand better. Obviously, SAP bought a company called Hybris, right?
Yeah.
Hybris. I think Hybris was independent for a while, right? I think Hybris.
They were.
Yeah,
they were.
And so, you know, I'm sure you get asked this question all the time. Well,
Yeah.
You know, why should I go with Corevist when you know I can go with the SAP product because they own it, and like, you know, wouldn't that make more sense, right? Or so what? I'm sure you get that.
Yeah, and the answer that we give all the time is go for it, right? That is the solution that you need to look at first. It is a robust end-to-end solution that clearly is built for purpose in the e-commerce space. And frankly, if you're a retailer, you probably can't do any better, right? I mean, it's in that upper right-hand quadrant with with the Adobes and Salesforce, and
also really expensive from what I've heard, though.
That's the other piece.
Well, now we're talking, right? Now it's like, but if you're
now I'm not going to get anyone from Hybris on the podcast because
no,
Well, they just canceled. I got a text.
No, we're friends. We really are. In fact,
well, I'm trying to be honest. That's what I've heard. I've heard it.
No, it's perfect. We're in the SAP store. Sales reps get compensated for selling Corevist Commerce.
Sure.
But what we do and what they do is try and sell SAP Cloud Commerce first. But if you're a $1 billion manufacturer, let's say, of earth moving equipment, you're not going to sell earth moving equipment over the web, right? You don't need an e-commerce website to sell a tractor, like these big articulating, but you might sell $5 million a year worth of spare parts or repair parts, right?
Yeah.
And in order to sell $5 million a year worth of spare parts, you're not going to spend $5 million on a website.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And
Okay?
this is just
and everything that you need to do business over the web is in your SAP system.
Yes. Yeah.
And so
it's not very customer friendly, right?
It's not customer friendly law, and it's very expensive, and it's still, the Hybris platform, the SAP Cloud Commerce, it was designed standalone. It wasn't designed with real-time direct day one integration. So it's a project. And so basically people who have, a year or more, $1 or more million, and will spend, have a department in place to build an e-commerce site, that's where they should go. But for those that need it cheaper, that they just basically want to liberate without, most of our clients, I would say the majority of our clients, surprisingly, aren't as interested in finding new customers as they are in wanting to become easier to do business with their existing customers.
Well, I think that's part of the crux of B2B e-commerce. We get that all the time. We're mostly in the Magento or Adobe Commerce, BigCommerce, Shopify world. We're doing a lot of custom headless stuff as well. But a lot of what we get with B2B customers is they're like, well, especially when you start getting into the cost, and a lot of these platforms will charge you more for the more revenue. They're like, well, I don't want to pay more when I bring my customers over because they're just my existing customers. Like, they don't see it as a reason to pay more for a license when all they're doing is just taking customers that call up and sending them to a web portal. They're like, I don't want to pay more for that. So most, I think, of the B2B e-commerce movement that needs to happen is just making it easier for their customers to buy. Because there's already 17, I think, I don't know, you see these different stats all the time, but I've read there's about 17 to 18 trillion B2B e-commerce or B2B sales going on at any time, but most of that is not through a commerce.
Most of that is phone, fax, and email today.
Yeah, or maybe EDI or something, but it's not a commerce.
Well, and the secret about EDI is that 60 to 70% of those EDI orders are touched by a human being.
They're not actually
once they're
on it. Yeah.
No. Yeah. They are when you send it, but then but that one died because that ship to wasn't recognized in my e-commerce site, or that it's a different price that I didn't recognize, or that product is no longer available, so a human being has to deal with all those issues. And yeah, so
So that's super interesting to hear that you kind of have this friendly relationship with SAP.
yeah.
You know, you're not kind of like unrealistic. You know that Hybris is kind of like the big enterprise player. Do you get a lot of people asking you like, hey, well, why don't I, like, you know, why don't I just go with like Shopify or something? Like, does that come up or?
Yeah, well, yeah, sure it does. You know, and first of all, getting back to SAP, if both of us are in the same room, one of us is in the wrong room, and we'll let them talk first, right? And then you know, we'll come back in if it makes sense. But on the Shopify, you know, we've been a Magento partner for ages, and in fact, under the covers, our catalog on our Corevist Commerce platform is in fact Magento headless. So we don't, there's no reason for me to build a catalog when the world's best catalog exists out there, right? But I don't really see Magento or Oro or Shopify as B2B e-commerce platforms for a manufacturer, because again, the integration project
70% of the work or 50% of the
kills
work.
it.
Yeah.
Kills those. As soon as you start talking about contract pricing for multinational, multi-distribution level network manufacturers, your projects have imploded. So these smaller platforms are great to test, you know, maybe a consumer market if you have a consumer product, you know, maybe to sell swag, you know, but we replace people. That's the way it starts. People start out with a Shopify or a Magento implementation to test it, to prove to their management that in fact we should be doing e-commerce, but we're only getting $500,000 a year business, $1 million of business.
Yeah,
we should be getting 100 million.
Yeah,
but we can't roll it out because it's not providing accurate data, real-time pricing.
yeah, you gotta have the real-time data, which is, we're working on a 10-chapter guide, and I think chapter 3 or 4 is like about that.
Yeah, it might take more than you know, chapter 3 or 4, right? A lot.
It is the reason we built our business this way, right, is because we've seen these integration projects just collapse of their own weight. And if you're in a business where everything that you understand about your business is already on your ERP platform, wanting to maintain that data in 2 places and have a third technology infrastructure, it's heavy. Now, certain organizations need it, right? I mean, I came across an organization yesterday that has multiple ERP systems, constantly acquiring new companies. Each one is not running on their own ERP. They need their own storefront. Great for them. But there is, you know, a trend in the industry, especially in the larger end, to consolidate companies, and the reason that they buy and roll up is to reduce administrative costs. So the first thing they do is they put them on the ERP system, right?
Yeah, economy of scale, right? I mean, having a million systems is hard to manage.
And for everybody to have their own web infrastructure and having their own design firm, you know, then you got problems with branding, and so it's like, we've got this nice little simple, you know, one SAP, one Corevist, 20 countries and brands. Right?
Yeah.
So another quick question for you. Do you have clients who are both B2B and B2C, and does Corevist do B2C for them?
We do. Of course we do. And the B2C JPW Industries, go to their website, buy their products. If you're a home woodworking guy or gal, we do both B2B and B2C for them. I would say that our sweet spot is not B2C at all, because frankly, from our perspective, it's too simple.
Go with Shopify or something, or
go with Shopify, or go with a standalone Magento site, you know, and then pass me the order, you know, and we help them with that. But our core with JPW is their B2B business, and while we're there, you know, we'll help them with their B2C, but not our core competency.
Also, you said you follow SAP, wherever they are. So do you have international offices or international teams, or how does that work for you guys?
Yeah, we've got folks in Germany.
Mhm.
We have clients from there. We service them, throughout Europe, South Africa.
Mhm.
We have a development lab we just opened up one in Poland. We've had one in Belarus for the last 4 years. Belarus is a little hot nowadays, for those of us who follow the international news. So
Mhm.
we're in
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a tough climate right now in the
It
world.
is.
A little, yeah. So anyway, yeah, we're in Western Europe. We're not, although some of our clients who are headquartered in either the US or Europe are running our software in Asia Pacific
Mhm.
and in Latin America. We don't have offices there
Okay.
yet. We service everybody out of the US and or Europe.
Well, also keep in mind, everything's going remote. So you could just get someone remote in South America and probably,
Well, we've been remote since day one, right?
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it sounds like you guys have a pretty international footprint. You're comfortable dealing with international, multinational projects.
Multilingual, multi-currency, multi-border. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Do you have any, I have a quirky question because somebody asked me this the other day. Do you
Yeah.
have any of your B2B clients who use Bitcoin?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of, no.
It's just, one of these things, especially with countries like El Salvador making it a legal currency.
Wow, that was crazy.
And I was talking to folks about this the other day, and they said, does anyone in B2B, accept? Because there are people in B2C who accept Bitcoin for payment. I just hadn't heard of anyone in B2B yet.
I think it's just so volatile, and it's also not the fastest transaction method. So
Oh no,
I think,
no. I don't recommend it, folks.
Yeah.
I want to make sure everyone knows that.
And the majority of our clients' customers buy product on account.
Sure.
Right? There is no purchasing at checkout. The majority of them. Well, we then extend our portal for them to be able to pay down those invoices online.
Mhm.
So we integrate there with ACH or credit card, and at that point, it could be Bitcoin, but no one's thought about that.
I'm getting some background noise. Is that me or just want to make sure? Oh, stop. It might have been like wind or something. I don't know. It stopped. But yeah, so we're definitely gonna have to have you back because I don't think we're gonna be able to even get to half of what I was gonna ask you. But one of the things that's really you brought up, and I want to just tell a quick anecdote, and I'm curious to hear your perspective. When you talk about multiple systems, we get this all the time, right? Like, oh, I need this platform, and then I have my ERP, and then we had one guy who was like, what about a PIM? I need a PIM system. And the first thing that I was talking about is that they had kind of already failed with their project. That's why they brought us in, right? Like classic. There's a lot of failures in B2B e-commerce. I think more than almost anything I've seen in my career of types of projects, right? And so a lot of times our job is to come in after the failures and do it right. And they're like, oh, we need a PIM. And I'm like, but why? Like, so basically the reason they thought they needed a PIM is because they can't figure out how to get good product data. And I was like, if you can't get your good product data into an e-commerce platform, how are you going to get it into a PIM? Right? Like, the core problem is that they didn't even have structured data to put anywhere. So I think sometimes a lot of these companies are thinking that technology is going to solve a problem, when in reality, there's just kind of like a basic process issue going on. And if you actually simplify the technology, like you said, with maybe 2 good systems, you get more out of it. Do you see where I'm going with that? Like,
oh yeah,
I was like, don't get the PIM, just get it into the e-commerce system. And
sure.
Then,
So yeah, the couple thoughts that come to mind directly. We have a couple clients, one in particular, that sells agricultural products to dairy farms.
Yep.
They do about $100 million a year through our website. I think maybe they've got in one, in this market there, I think they maybe sell to 150 or so customers, and they have about 10 SKUs.
Not a lot.
So do I need a PIM for that?
No, absolutely not.
No.
Right. And so a lot of this really starts with who are your customers, right? And what are you trying to accomplish with those customers? Are they casual customers? Are you trying to recruit new customers? Are they existing customers? Are they large volume customers? Do they have a private, how many SKUs do they order? I mean, you really got to start with the business problem first and then work your way back, right? So some of our, not many, some don't even need a catalog. There's not a picture to be found, right? I mean, I don't know how.
Straight from ERP, right?
You go straight from ERP.
Yeah.
Understand that every single one of these clients, if you can order the product, the SKU has to exist in your ERP system.
Yeah, right? Well, I've seen that too, where they're like, it's not working, and we're like, literally the SKU didn't exist in your ERP. We've had a couple projects like that.
Exactly.
Like how crazy.
Which is why for us the system of truth is the ERP system.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more there. And I want to kind of take a step back because obviously not everyone has SAP, the systems that you have. And I'm just kind of curious. I mean, you've been in this world, this ERP world for close to 30 years now.
Yeah.
What are you, I mean, I think we can all agree that ERP is, I'll call it a necessary evil, right? Like you can't really get away from having an ERP system in B2B, right? You have to have, I mean, I can't really think of a scenario where you couldn't have an ERP and run $100 million B2B company. Maybe there's some magic out there, but let's all agree that if you want to scale your B2B company, you pretty much have to have an ERP system. The question is really, is it SAP? Is it NetSuite? Is it, MS Dynamics? What are you kind of seeing in the market? I mean, obviously SAP, I think they've stayed pretty much number one in the ERP world for the last long time, right? And it's kind of amazing that they've been able to do that. It doesn't seem like that's necessarily changing, but I do feel like some of the other players are doing well. What are you kind of seeing in the landscape?
Well, I'm not an ERP salesman, right? So I can't really tell you what's going on between SAP and Oracle, other than the fact that there's a huge battle there that's always been there, between those companies. And
maybe you could tell us about the battle, right?
Yeah, right. And there's a whole mid-market of ERP systems, and then there's a smaller cloud. I mean, there's plenty of ERP systems that are out there. While I don't take a position on who's the best ERP, I have bet my company on one of them.
Seems to work pretty well. It seems like it's
right.
Seems like it's worked.
Because I happen to think that they're I think they're the third or fourth largest software company in the world.
Yeah.
I think they got things. I think they got things figured out in this S4 HANA migration, which is basically, if you think about what were the reasons why people didn't want to integrate to the ERP system, right? Well, they didn't want to integrate to the ERP system predominantly for two big reasons, right? Number one is it's slow, right? It's slow. If every time I have to go to the ERP system for real-time availability or contract pricing, and I got to wait for that thing to churn and then give it back to me, the user experience is going to be terrible. It's going to take, especially long list of shopping carts. It's just going to be just like terrible. So I need to get that as close to the user as possible. S4HANA is solving that problem because it's all in memory, right? So it's like, boom, lightning. So SAP is definitely heading in the right direction. Of course, there's a lot of optimization that you can do with existing. It's like The big issue I see is that makes B2B hard is that it's actually a multi-organizational, multi-discipline problem. And anytime you get technologists and marketing people and salespeople and customer service people, forget even the customer, to agree on anything and to cooperate, the project is a nightmare, right? And on top of that, you put infrastructure and security, and it's like, that's what makes these things hard. So if you can simplify it. So S/4HANA is fast. So I don't need to take all that data, move it here to make it fast because it's sitting there. The other issue has always been, I've heard, yeah, I don't want to integrate to the ERP system in real time because this website's got to be up 24/7, 365. That ERP system's not, right? It goes down like every weekend for 4 or 5 hours, and I'm saying, yeah, so pay the price to have a separate infrastructure. That's good for you, no problem, that exists. But do you really think that they want that SAP system to go down for a day every weekend? I mean, when they're working 24/7, so you know that doesn't fit anymore either. So
Yeah, it's a fair. So I mean, what I and you're kind of alluding to what I think is, do you think, and I think that we're seeing this more and more and almost taking more of a patient approach with B2B, and we're really almost very selective and careful with who we work with. Luckily, we have a very strong B2C business that's a little bit more faster moving. But do you think that a lot of these B2B organizations, before they even jump into a Corevist or whatever, any other platform, the first thing they should do is like, is our ERP even ready? Like, a lot of these guys are on systems that are 10, 20, 30 years old, and maybe they really should focus on upgrading their ERP.
So again, I can't speak to any ERP system, you know, other than the SAP world, but since they're the majority leader in the manufacturing space, you know, I can speak to that. And I can tell you that because our projects are live on day one, we have this thing in our company that we call the kimono effect, okay? So what happens is, to your point, is we roll our portal up, our e-commerce site to the ERP system, and we start on day one to place and track orders. What we're exposing is their ERP system. And we're exposing the immaturity of the ERP system, which essentially is, if you can open up your kimono to the world, you better look good. And we're actually showing them where they don't look good on day one. Hey, that pricing data is inappropriate, or that availability, a bigger one is availability, right? You don't want to lie to your customers and tell them that it's in stock and it's not going to be in stock. And most of these ERP systems calculate available promise, but those calculations aren't perfect. So what we do is we say, at least get some value, right? So get rid of the phone calls about, did the order get placed yet? And where is it? Get rid of those phone calls. That data is there, but maybe you don't display available properly. So just say usually available in 3 days until you can fix that problem. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's iterative.
So basically,
you can't wait until you're perfect. You
yeah, I like that idea.
Value and grow, right?
Yeah, so basically figure out what you can present that's accurate, present that, and then say,
and maybe it's only to a subset of your users. You know, don't try and prevent some users from getting some value because you want to give all value to all users.
Oh yeah,
that's not what the web's about, right?
Yeah, let me interject for 1 second. So just a quick thought on this. So do you have a heavily consultative approach then, and you have like really active account management where they can get in there, like once this open kimono process reveals things, can you say, well, we could take care of all of these, but not these? I mean, or how does that work with you internally?
Yeah, we are SAP gurus. We've been built on SAP.
Sure.
So that's exactly what. Now, what we don't.
That's what I figured.
but what we don't do, we're not SAP implementation partners. Right?
Got it. Okay.
We do not do their SAP work.
Yeah.
We work with their partners because I'm not a service company. I'm a software company, right?
Sure.
I'm a software company. So we will highlight to them during our workshops. We start out with a project initiation workshop. We just had one today in Germany. With one of our clients migrating to our new platform. And we throw it up there and we say, we're threatening to put this into production tomorrow. A group of 10 of their customers for an hour, well, probably 3 hours, tell us why it won't go into production. That price is wrong. We need this. That field needs to be good. We do that. And then we uncover perhaps SAP challenges that they have. And then we put that on their punch list. They got to go solve those things.
Got it. Okay.
So you brought up, and I think that's why we're building this 10-chapter guide, is to try and educate and help people in hopefully one resource that they can read to kind of navigate some of these problems. But one of the biggest things is just having the internal team to execute on a project, right? Like if you don't have someone running this project, it's probably going to fail. Like you can't just buy a software and expect it to magically work, right? So, I mean, definitely, I think they need some sort of, e-commerce manager, e-commerce operator. But to your point, and I think this is one of the problems, is that person isn't necessarily empowered to go and, make decisions around sales and marketing and operations. Do you think that the CEO or the executives need to come in and get more educated? Like who needs to be kind of coming in? Is that the CEO, you think, that needs to be?
Depends on the size of the organization, right? And it depends on the problem that you're trying to solve. And there are a lot of depends, right? But I would say, the mental model that I have is, where is the lowest place in the organization that you have to go in order to get a decision made, right? And if it's a simple decision, that only the technologists can resolve, then you don't have to go beyond the technology organization. But if it happens to be, a problem with the warehouse and their fulfillment, and you're doing this e-commerce, well, then all of a sudden, who does the warehouse manager and the IT department, where do they go? Because they're going to argue with one another. How high up do I need to go up there, right, to get an answer? And if it's a pricing problem, so who's going to? So at some point in time, you need to block the guy or the woman way up here.
Who can unblock the cross department?
Unblock it, right? You need that predefined when you start the project. That is your executive sponsor. You don't want to ever go to them, but when you want them to resolve something, they need to be in place and they need to understand that this project.
That makes a lot of sense. So sometimes it might be the CEO, sometimes it could be a VP type person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Depends on the size of the organization. That makes a lot of sense. So I have a really off-topic question, but I noticed it says you're a PhD. What's your PhD from? I'm assuming some. Actually, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm a chemist. I was a chemist. Yeah, an analytical.
You like
chemist.
to mix it up.
I like to analyze it. I'm an analytical chemist.
Gotcha. And how did you kind of transition into this stuff? Were you in the manufacturing B2B world? And then...
Well, I was a chemist working for IBM, and at the time they were trying to sell computers to chemists, and I came across a problem that I had as a chemist running a laboratory. I didn't have a piece of software that I could have used back then, which today is called Laboratory Information Management System, right? So I built one, and then I told IBM, hey, let's go sell this. And they said, nah. So I started my first software company back in '86, took that public in '87, and that made my transition from chemistry to software and business. I built software to sell to chemists, and then that became a lot more fun than mixing test tubes.
So what motivates you now? It seems like you've had some success in the past. I'm guessing you don't necessarily need the day-to-day job right now. What
Right, I don't necessarily need the day-to-day job. What motivates me now? Well, I love the value that we provide to these manufacturers who didn't think that they could actually get this thing done. There are people, there's real human beings involved here who, when we come up into their organizations, and these are companies that are in the world economy. So when I wake up in the morning and I read the Wall Street Journal, I read about Merck Animal Health, and I read about Crayola, and I read about, the Arm & Hammer brand. I said, wow, I'm touching that. This little person in this little office with the 50 some odd people that are created are touching the world economy, and I'm adding value to people who work for those companies who touch the world economy by making them heroes in their organization. That to me is like, the fact that we can help these people is the reason to get up in the morning, right? Like there's a lot that I don't like about this job, right? There really is. But at the end of the day, I always focus on, we're really delivering value, and it's a great group of people that we work with, and we're giving us a place every day to solve problems with a positive attitude and learn how to negotiate new skills. And it's like, I'm a teacher and I'm a scientist at heart, right? So I'm adding value to people's lives, and why wouldn't I continue to do this, right?
That's pretty cool. So what's on the horizon for Corevist? What sort of things are you thinking in the next, what can you share, like next year or 3 years that you're excited about, things that you're working on?
Well, our product, we have just earlier this year released the next version, like our next gen version, right, of our product, and so we're bringing it to market, and that's a kind of all hands on deck. Everybody needs to understand how this new product and this new multi-tenant world is working with us. So there's a lot there. We did take on my very first, this is a bootstrap company. A year and a half ago, we took on our first small Series A round from a company called Jurassic Capital, who are successfully exited their company, a company called Bronto Software.
Yep, I'm familiar with that.
I know Bronto.
Yeah.
I work with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So Joe Colopy and company are like now on our board and guiding us through this transition, and so we're on a world domination pathway.
I like that world domination pathway. That's it.
I noticed on your partner page, you're actually partnered with Punch Out To Go.
Yeah.
Who's one of our sponsors.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people, it's not always clear to them. This is such behind the scenes stuff a lot of times, so they don't really understand that this stuff is even out there. Yeah. You don't have to custom build everything, right? You can buy these.
So we're in the middle of a project right now with a company that sells school furniture, right? Which is kind of a tough business to be in the COVID world with supply chain sort of stuff going on. But we're in the business of replatforming them onto our platform, and in their market, the majority of their clients will log into the website and buy product directly into their SAP system real time via our platform. They do have certain school districts who do consolidated buying in internal purchases. They will not come to our website.
Yeah, of course,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a
and
Coupa system.
Like a Coupa system, or an SAP or SciQuest, which is now Jaeger. And so Punch Out To Go solves that problem for us, right? I mean, it's just brilliant. It's like we'll push product into a standalone website, one solution, and then that user is integrated with their purchasing system, and then they ship it to our ERP system, and then they can come to us to track that order or pay for that order, right?
Gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense. And just to touch on this one last thing, I'm curious, how did you guys decide? Because how did you guys decide to? I see Magento as a partner. How does that? Because you might think they're a competitor. How does that kind of like?
That's,
you know,
that's
fit
another,
in
you might
here?
think they're a competitor, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our relationship with Magento started back in like 2009, 2010.
So pretty early. Yeah.
Yeah, very early with them because our first client that we went in production with didn't want a catalog. And my partners at the time said, this is great. That's what we want to do. We want industrial manufacturing. Our second client said, whoa, you guys don't have a catalog? Like, we're not going to buy from you. We love your SAP integration, but we need a catalog. And so I said, I'm not buying one. I'm not building one of these things, right? You know, I mean, that's silly. And so that's when we started. Actually, it started with OS Commerce. We built our first website with OS Commerce, and then it was obvious that Magento was going to be the winner. So then we moved our technology to their platform, and we've been with them ever since. Now they have evolved over the years to want to get into the B2B space, and you know, and they got big and they got expensive, and honestly, we started a part company. And so, because we don't believe that extending B2B functionality on the Magento platform makes sense for our clients who are all 100% on SAP and all their data is already there, right?
So then, are you just using it as a catalog still, or
That's it. It's
gotcha.
just,
And I'm assuming
just the open source headless catalog.
That's what I figured. Okay. And you manage that for the customers. So do they have to host Magento?
No, we're a software as a service provider. Everything is under the covers. One throat to choke. Come to us, pay me a monthly fee. I do the integration, I give you my software, I do the hosting, I do the monitoring it.
So you're using it, but they don't need to worry about it in so much that,
we have clients where they don't have e-commerce managers. They don't have any technology.
Yeah.
They just run their business as they normally run it. And one of their CSRs does admin of users. Everything else is in SAP, right?
So what if you had a client who left SAP? What happens to them?
They leave us.
Okay. Okay. I'm just trying to, I'm running this through.
That's happened. That's happened. Okay.
And you guys just, you know,
it's been great. It's been great, you know.
But by now,
you help them transition off, or you say, here's your access, whatever, you know.
Move on. Yeah.
Okay.
So
staying focused is, and hyper focused is key to success.
Yeah, I agree with that. So what advice do you have for, you know, manufacturers and distributors getting into B2B e-commerce? Or maybe that, let's say they're doing, I think that's a classic story, right? It's like they're doing only 500,000 online. It's like this little tiny site, they stood up, you know, a platform, barely anyone uses it, it's neglected, but it's like also their main website. It's just, you see this all the time. It's just not a good experience, like looking at these businesses, but they might do $300 million in business. So you're like, how is that possible? This company, I always think that, like, how are these guys that have, you know, this old website doing $300 million in business?
Yeah, exactly. Phone, fax, and email, right? Phone, fax, and email. So what's my advice? Is set realistic goals from a business perspective, okay? And plan on going on an iterative incremental journey and focus on becoming easier to do business with first and get successful. And then let success feed success feed success feed success, okay? And evolve from there. If you start out with the wrong goal, which is, oh my God, everybody's in B2B e-commerce, we got to get a website up. Go ahead, get the marketing guy in the local agency to build up a B2B e-commerce. Yeah, that looks really pretty. It's got products there. But wait a minute. Nobody's buying, and I don't know how to fulfill it. And these people are rekeying it. That's like the wrong approach for manufacturers. Because don't go after new markets. Don't go after, like, I'm generalizing here, right? Because some people actually want to, going to new markets. But
Yeah, generally, that's fine.
But from a general standpoint, if you're a manufacturer and you're doing $300 million a year worth of product, and you don't have a customer portal, don't even call it a B2B e-commerce website, because you don't think Amazon is going to compete with you, which they are, by the way. But
Of course, sir.
then just become easier to do business with. Just become easier to do business with, and take some of the pain away from the CSRs, and take some of and segment your customers. Start with a slice of your pie, right? Because you're immature. You don't have the experience, the culture in your organization that a mature B2B e-commerce organization would look like. So don't bite off more than you can chew, but get some success as quickly as you can with the platform, and then go and find a partner that's experienced that can you can get some success with, right? And then later on you can get a partner if you want to do it on your own.
I agree with that. So basically, your advice is don't skip. I think to your point, a lot of people try and skip too many steps. They're at step 0.5 and they see, Coca-Cola, and they're like, all right, now we need like this like super advanced website. So let's go to like step 10. And we only have like 300 grand. And it's just like 300 grand is not going to get you from step 0 to step 10. It's just not enough.
Exactly right.
So
that's exactly right.
Figure out how to get to step 1 or 2 quickly. And
that's how, when the Hybris guy and we're in the same room, look at each other, right? If you have got it figured out and you got that money and you know what you can do with it, go with him, because, or her, because that's the plot. But if you're kind of like in that mid-market, and if you haven't been in this market before, and you've got existing clients you want to become easy to do business with, which means a lot of integration, get started with us, SaaS style, a couple of years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, whatever, then you can graduate. But if you can't start there, start somewhere, and you have your ERP system, that's the place to start. I mean, that's who Corevist is.
Yeah. What maturity level are you seeing in the market right now? Like, do you feel like we're still super early stage? We're still kind of very immature relative to what you think it's going to be, or are you starting to see more maturity and you're like, wow, these guys actually kind of know what they're doing when they come talk to us?
There are a phenomenal number of manufacturers out there in the SAP space. And again, these are the elites. These are the larger. There are a phenomenal number of companies that you would think should be way more advanced, and they're still sitting on phone, fax, and email. There's a guy in my backyard here in Raleigh, North Carolina, that we're talking to, a company that we're talking to there, multinational manufacturer. 100% of all of their orders are manual in the United States.
Wow.
2021. It's 2021, right? And it's the United States of America.
I mean, you have a Tesla robot coming. You saw, I don't know if you saw the Tesla.
So I'm not shocked anymore, right? Because these are industrial manufacturers. The folks that have retail products, they're fairly mature. They get it, right?
Or they're dead, or they're Toys R Us.
Right.
There you go.
And because they built the B2C, and then they're figuring out how to extend it to the B2B. And by the way, we replaced a lot of those, websites. But the industrial guys, there's so much room to grow here. So
what it reminds me of, and I think you'll appreciate this, Sam, is I was brought in to consult a concern, and I can't mention their name, but it's hilarious. So they asked me, they're going to get some investment money, right? And they wanted to know like how much of it should go to marketing, how much whatever. And then I saw like exactly how bad things were behind the scenes. This is a B2B manufacturer, right? I'm like, oh my God, it's like you're delivering things by donkey. It's what is going on here? It's like, do not invest like, more than a couple dollars in marketing. It's like, please, I beg you, I'm a marketer, right? I mean, a lot of my core value to people is telling them how to really market well. And I'm like, don't spend on marketing, spend on all of these other things, first. It's really amazing how that happens.
And I think that brings up a really good point, that a lot of B2B companies, and especially I could see larger ones, they get caught up, they get sold by the ad agencies, because those are the guys knocking on the door, and they're spending, $10 million on TV ads. And then their IT department is like 2 guys, and they're still, everything is so slow behind the scenes. It's like, if you flip that investment, your marketing would 10x the return, because you'd be marketing something that's easier to do business with, right?
Exactly. What were you going to say, Sam? I think I cut you off.
No, well, yeah, no. What I was gonna say was that be really careful about the definition that you use of the problem that you want to solve, because that's the problem that you're going to solve.
Sure.
Okay. And in the B2B world, all I can say is it's kept me alive for 14 years there. The right problem to solve is help the manufacturer become easier to do business with first.
Yep.
Okay. And that will uncover the kimono effect, client segment by client segment. Oh, these guys need a configurator. Well, then don't go to the configurator customer requirement end user first. Okay. Have your salespeople go out there with that standalone configurator that you built with them and have them email it for another year. But go to the ones here that buying off the shelf, not configurable products, so you get your infrastructure in place.
Mm-hmm.
Segment, 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 segment. Grow, 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 grow. And I think that's kind of what we've seen as the formula.
That's a good theme. Segment, 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 grow, grow, grow. I like it.
Keep it simple, right? Keep it simple.
Totally.
Simplicity. I love it. It's the way to go. Another way that I've often heard it put is, you go small to go big, right? I mean, you really zero in, and then you'll be growing bigger.
So I just want to kind of sum up here. Basically, depending on the industry, it's not very mature for the most part.
We got a lot. We're in the early days.
Yeah, we're in the early days. And I think it's important, because I do think, and I don't know if you've ever followed Brian Beck, or you're familiar with Brian Beck.
Of course. Oh, yeah.
If you read his book, he makes a really interesting point where, at some point it'll be too late. There will be a point where you become the Toys R Us. And do you agree with that? Do you think that there's going to be a point where these guys, that everything's pen and paper and email and phone,
So here's where I have a little bit of we need to be very precise about the words that we use in the market. So Toys R Us, Blockbuster, who are no longer with us, are not manufacturers.
For sure.
Okay, so they are vulnerable.
Yeah.
They are very vulnerable. Manufacturers, first and foremost, you better have a differentiable product. If you don't have a differentiable product, whether you have a website or not, you're going out of business.
Yeah.
Okay? Focus on your product. Focus on the product that you provide, and then your distribution strategy sits on top of that, right? And the web certainly has to be a part of that. Will you go bust? Yeah. If another manufacturer has, let's say, a more expensive, not as feature-rich product, but is easier to do business with, you might lose to them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. But if you can continue to hone your product and differentiate it, then you're not going to go bust if you don't have a website.
Yeah. Manufacturers, I agree with you. If you own the product, you own the intellectual property, you can survive with less sophisticated, tools, because if your product's so good, people need your product. But I think another important point to make is, keep in mind, a lot of B2B is distribution. A lot of B2B businesses do not make the product, or they make very little product, and most of their business is just being a middleman.
Right.
And a lot of them are not easy to do business with. And those people, I think, are very vulnerable, because
they are.
Yeah.
Distributors,
I agree.
retailers, resellers, they're all very vulnerable. We, Corvus, focus on the manufacturer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because they're actually thinking, you know, that they're fat, dumb, and happy, that they don't have to do this. And we're trying to convince them, right, that you've got to become easier to do business with because it's cost. You're spending money that you ought not be spending, you know. And it was very apparent during COVID how difficult it was without being able to do online customer service for some of these manufacturers, for sure.
And COVID's not over anytime soon.
No, we're still learning lessons from it and feeling the effects, and it's going to be happening for a very long time. Very long time.
Just as we were gearing up to do more in person, we just were like, no, it's not worth it. We stopped.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's scary.
So, Sam, what do you have any final words that you'd like to say for us as we get closer to wrapping up here?
Other than thank you very much for inviting me for your on your 50th. Is that a silver or diamond?
It's the golden episode, golden anniversary.
I really do appreciate it. After all these episodes that I've listened to, I was just kind of like, well, when are they gonna call me up? Man, I do so much work in B2B e-commerce, and so, you know, like, I'm glad.
So if
I'm
you
so glad.
Help us get more guests. Honestly, the hardest part about running this podcast is it's such a difficult niche that, you know, we can't just go to any e-commerce person because they're like, oh, we just do like fashion and we do, you know,
only really good people, Sam. Only really good people like yourself.
Right.
You know?
I hear you.
It's a tough niche to find guests because a lot of the people they're not shouting from the rooftops. They're not Gary Vaynerchuk on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like they're.
But who is?
Well, you know, and that's kind of like the thing that gives me a lot of angst is that it is a really important space. It is a huge space. It's early, B2B e-commerce is, and the people that are infiltrating it aren't coming into it from the B2B out. They're coming from the B2C in, and they're bringing some really bad habits, and they're bringing some really bad perspectives, you know, and so we definitely need more. You laugh because I hit a nerve?
Oh, no, I see it so often, and sometimes we have to basically stop people from making really bad decisions, and sometimes we just can't. Sometimes it's just like, all right, well, good luck. This is what we think you should do. Good luck.
You know, as a business owner, though, that's a hard decision to make sometimes because they're ready to write you a check.
Yeah.
You know? And you're gonna have to make some tough decisions along the way. But we're lucky. You know, we haven't had. I won't say that we haven't had any like bad clients, but we've had clients where our relationship has run its course and was obvious to both parties, right?
Yeah.
And so, but we now feel as if our filter for who the right organization is and what they're trying to do, we start by asking them, you know, like, and if they don't have realistic expectations, we're a templated solution. We're out of the box, right? If you want that custom agency design, you know, every font could be in a different, you know, a different font and color and place on. That's not the business that we solve, right? You're bringing retail mentality to the B2B business, which is, I'm not saying it needs to be ugly. We don't want it to be ugly, right? That's why we redesigned the whole platform. But in order to be easier to do business with, what you really got to do is not lie to your customers. Have real-time data, personalize it, make sure that they can't buy stuff that they shouldn't buy at the price that they should buy it at, that's available at the time that they can buy it, you know, and do it in the minimal. Now you've become an easy to do business with company, and there aren't very many people that understand that.
Yeah.
You know, in this industry. So I appreciate you guys trying to educate the world, right? It's an important thing for the industry for sure. So I
Well,
look forward to that 10-page guide.
You guys are gonna have to write a blog post, a little summary of this on your website. Help us get it out there.
We're happy to help.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it for sure. And vice versa.
Yeah, we do it on every episode. So, but you know, our reach is, we're trying to get a bigger reach, but you know, we're not SAP, right? I don't have quite the marketing budget yet.
Well,
So
thanks once again,
Yeah.
Sam Baer, Corevist,
Yeah.
episode 50. Absolutely
Cheers.
wonderful. Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.